Welcome back to Q-Dads, it's me Ste, and yes, episode 2 of Silo has just dropped and actually gave us a lot more, and has my brain working even harder, especially after Meadows asking to go out and clean. And this episode was actually pretty short, or it felt shorter than the first, but it's worth pointing out, guys, that episode 3 is actually dropping on Wednesday, so that means we don't have to wait the whole week for the next episode, which is very strange, but I'm not complaining, because that means I don't have to wait as long to find out what happened to Juliette and the mystery of the man behind the door. So before we dive deep into who is potentially going to cause the rebellion and Benard's actions in stopping it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can keep up to date weekly with us and Silo. Of course, don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can be the first to listen to our excellent opinions. And remember, guys, no book spoilers here. That's right, we're covering this from a TV aspect only, so please refrain from spoiling it in the comments. And if you do write something with a bit of a spoiler, give us a massive warning first. So the episode ended with Judge Meadows and Benard having a bit of a conversation, and Meadows wanting to follow in the same direction as the wizard from The Wizard of Oz, getting into that hot air balloon and flying off. But in this world, that was her wanting the same experience as Juliette, and actually going outside to clean. That means for Judge Meadows, she still thinks Juliette is alive, even after hearing there's thousands of dead bodies from a previous war in another silo, which Benard informed her about. She still has that choice and wants to go out. I think her natural curiosity for collecting relics definitely plays a part in this, with her being curious about what Juliette saw and wanting to share that same experience. But the question, of course, is, will Benard let her do this? And if he does, will he actually give her the good tape? Or will he pretend he's giving her the good tape, only to kill her and tie up any loose ends? And of course, is he really going to send Meadows outside to clean in front of everybody else, especially after telling them all they've hit a new milestone in the silo and entered a new era, Juliette walking over the hill? So this potentially means he will do it after the curfew, so there are no witnesses to what actually happens. I do like how Benard mentions that the founders had made plans for if somebody didn't clean, but not if someone walked over the hill. It was a nice little bit of comedy sprinkled in. Now, just taking us back to the start of the episode, where we start is in the vault, which is the same place the dude in the other silo currently resides. So in here we can clearly see there is a book called The Order left by the founders, but not much else. So again, I question, how is the other dude surviving? The most surprising thing for me though was the fact Benard wasn't even fazed by the other silos. Now, before this season, we had to question if any of them knew there were other silos. And it's clear the head of IT now always knows about the other silos, and they have full access to the book. I think it was more interesting though that Judge Meadows had also been in the vault and potentially read the book. Are we about to see in the next episode that Juliette will get her hands on one of the books? Now, something that caught my attention during this whole episode, especially in the final scenes, as well as with Benard and Meadows, is the fixation on water. We saw at the start that Walker was spraying people with a hose. We then saw Meadows tip alcohol down the sink, and even Sims's wife pouring a glass of water. If you look carefully, there's a lot of emphasis on the water, which can mean one of two things. One, that it just represents the water that we're going to be seeing throughout the series and that Juliette is currently experiencing in Silo 17 or 19. It's one of them. Or it represents the potential flood that is to come, like what happened to the residents of the other silo. Of course, in this episode, Benard made a speech to the whole silo and actually mentioned the new tape, but of course put a bit of a spin on it to say that it was actually designed by IT and he took full credit for it. But as we see, there's a few people led by Shirley who do not believe this and want to cause the rebellion. And with new graffiti tags around the silo, this is probably likely. Now, I find myself asking the question, when will this rebellion actually start? So, when naturally in the next episode we are going to flip back to Juliette and her experiences with this new resident of the other silo. But as we then start flipping back between the two silos, how long will it take to see the rebellion? Will this happen in this current season? As clearly the episode today is set at the same time as the episode last week. So we saw Juliette enter the other silo, and now we're seeing the other side of that. Are there going to be some time skips for over the next few episodes? Leading on from that, one of our predictions so far is that we could actually be mirroring the same events as the other silo, just without the warning to flood. So, as the rebellion goes underway and the residents are looking to leave, this is where, at that point in time, Juliette returns to this silo, but beneath it, in the network that we've previously spoken about. Now, I have mentioned before that my prediction is that this will happen, but Juliette will actually be in another silo and they won't meet. Now, does this actually mean then, if that happens, that the residents of Silo 18 will presumably all die as they will try to leave? Or does Benard have a plan to change things? I really don't think he will let all the people cause this rebellion, then go outside themselves, especially after seeing Juliette's screen with all of the bodies. If they want the truth, he will send them out to go and find the truth, and then watch them all die and take back control of the silo. Now, there's a couple of things I also want to touch on. One is Sheriff Billings now. We all saw him briefly in this episode, questioning Sims about his statement and what actually happened. And of course, it doesn't look like Billings believes him. I think Billings' story is going to be very underlined throughout this second season, as he slowly pieces the puzzles all together to uncover the truth of what really happened. And again, if we cut back to the start of episode 1, the flashback or sneak peek footage, the leader of the rebellion is also the sheriff. Now clearly this can't just be a coincidence that the similarities between these two silos are shown. Are the producers doing this on purpose to show you what can happen if a rebellion goes wrong? So as we saw in the previous silo, they all die. In this silo, will somehow Billings, Sims, Benard and Meadows get things back on track? Maybe at some point they'll announce the whole truth just to stop people going out there and getting themselves killed. Either way, I think Billings will play a crucial part in whether the rebellion happens, based on the evidence he uncovers. So he's one to watch out for in the background, I think. And of course, obviously, we all hope he learns more about the silo, as that in turn gives us more information about the whole thing too. Now, the second thing is the fact that Knox asked one of his friends deep down to not make weapons. Then why would he ask him to not make weapons, considering that is something that can help them with the rebellion? But of course, he obviously seems against the rebellion and is almost going against what Shirley feels. But he actually asked for a second thing, and we don't know what this is. What do you think this is? Now, for Ben, he does have a bit of a wild theory, and actually Knox was asking the guy to help with the flooding of the silo. And that's right, that means that it wasn't actually Judicial that flooded the other silo, but someone who was a normal resident of the silo. If Ben is right, that means this silo will be flooded in an attempt to stop the rebellion, but actually will probably make things worse without them realising. Or more than likely, he's asking them to make something. Make some kind of device that can shut down the power to everything, or a device that can help open the doors in case they all need to escape and leave the silo. I personally wonder though, if Knox knows a little more than he's letting on. There were a few mentions of his father, and that got me thinking. It's clear that the Flamekeepers started originally down in the depths of the silo. Could Knox's family have been part of this? And there is some knowledge that is passed on from father to child. As we don't actually know how the original rebellion in Silo 18 happened, and now seeing as we have seen the book left by the founders, that has a lot of things inside of it, I start to question if the leaders of the Flamekeepers were actually part of their plan, as there was only a few people left from this rebellion, like the old lady in the last series, and we don't even know how it was squashed in the first place. Maybe the leaders of the rebellion in Silo 18 were actually shown the book, hence why Knox might know this is a bad idea. He even said the outside is poison, and he looked like he knew that for a fact. Either way, Knox is clearly planning something to help calm the waters, but what? Now, one key final thing I want to touch on about this episode, and something that I completely forgot about, the mines. Now, this is where you're sent as the ultimate punishment in the silo. I'd completely forgotten about it, but they mention it so many times in this episode. It's kind of like Ben and his water theory. Are we actually going to be seeing the mines this time? As I wonder, if no one returns from the mines, are they interlinked with the other silos? Looking at how close each silo is to the next, surely if you're mining, you're going to run into the others. Again, this all plays on my theory that the silos are all interlinked somehow. And after seeing the book left by the founders and how each thing is sectioned out into rules and acts, you can't tell me the founders haven't planned for other silos mining to run into each other. Again, it also brings up the possibility that each silo might have a slightly different variation of the book. Overall, I think this episode was really good. We did get a lot of information dropping and setting up of plot points for the rest of the series. I will, however, reiterate on last week's point. I think episode 1 and 2 should have been aired on the same day, especially with next week's episode coming early because of Thanksgiving. Let me know your thoughts on that, as I'm so excited for episode 3. Right then, just before I send Ben back to the mines for the week and hand some questions over to you, don't forget to like and subscribe, as the next few months are stacked with brilliant TV, and Severance Season 2 is going to be amazing in January. Right then, my questions to you. Do you think Juliette will somehow get a message back to Silo 18? Is Knox actually in on the events of the silo, or just simply trying to protect his people? And finally, do you think we'll see Sims get his hands on the order book before the season ends? Let me know in the comments, as I'm really interested to hear your thoughts and opinions. Again, remember, we're only talking about the TV side of things here, so if you do happen to post anything that's slightly spoilery, at least put at the start of your comment, this is a spoiler, so people can ignore it if they don't want to know. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll catch you next time with something new.